Like everything else in this world, there are overrated tech jobs and underrated tech jobs. In today's video, I want to talk about the most overrated and the most underrated jobs. Now, these are all, I've only been in one field, so this is all just from seeing what's online, talking to people who are in these fields, and just my experience in general. So I can't say, oh, I've definitely done cybersecurity and I know it's this, or I've definitely done cloud. Well, actually I can't say for cloud, but I've definitely done management and I know it's this. This is just all from my peripheral, my thoughts, and then also just taking in the thoughts of others that I know, and once again that I've seen online and forums and Reddit and all that stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. I want to start with overrated just because of the fact that one, it may not be overrated, doesn't necessarily mean it's overrated for everybody. Everybody has their niche. Everybody has things they like. This is more of a playful video, but I do want to help people inquire and just understand and think. That's kind of really the whole point. I make videos. I'm not trying to tell you what to do or what to think. I just want to provide as much information as I can and allow people to do further research or ask me, to help them with further research and make their own decision. I don't want anyone to base their complete decision on anything I've said in these videos. I just want to provide information and just things that I've heard. So bear with me on that. But for overrated, the first thing I want to say is cybersecurity. And the reason I think cybersecurity, or, I come to understand why people believe cybersecurity is overrated, is because of the fact that, and I can actually say without being in cybersecurity, is that they make it seem as though it's something that it's not. So one thing about cybersecurity you see in TV and movies, and even sometimes when you see people talk about cybersecurity online, is just that they make it seem like you're just always hacking into something and doing something special, as far as just like watching, stopping intrusion attacks and whatnot. And it's not necessarily that. There's a lot more paperwork involved, and not obviously physical paper, but a lot more paperwork involved, a lot more semantics involved, as far as, making sure firewalls are safe. You have to make sure that things can be, that data is protected and encrypted, and you got to go over policies, and you got to understand policies. You got to stay up to date with cybersecurity tactics and whatnot, and that can be fun for someone. Like, even for me, that sounds fun to me, but I just don't want people to think that it's all day on a computer typing in PowerShell and whatnot. It's not necessarily that. Some people do that, some companies do that. It's all about that part is where you have to do further research, doing cybersecurity for, I don't even know a car manufacturing company may not be the same as doing cybersecurity for an insurance company. Doing cybersecurity for Google may not be the same for doing cybersecurity for Walmart. Like, it's just things like that you have to understand. So from the outside looking in, it definitely seems as though I can get why people may say it's overrated. I think all this stuff is cool, so it's really hard for me. There's only one thing I would say that's overrated, but I understand why people do it, and we'll talk about that next. But yeah, I think that cybersecurity, I can see why people say it's overrated, just because it's not exactly everything that it's led to believe. A lot of tasks are mundane. There's a lot of meetings. There's just a lot that is not quite how it's portrayed. That's why I can see it's overrated. The next one, however, this is the one thing in tech that I completely see as being overrated. But once again, I see why people do it. I would want to do it. Anybody would want to do it. But it can be overrated just because it's not as great as it seems all the time. And that is management. Being an IT manager of any kind is not what it all cracks up to be. I've worked real close with managers. I've had plenty of managers, and that's why I feel as though it's overrated. Not to say that, it's not a good job or anything like that. It's a great job. I think that people who most of the time are managers take pride in being manager, and they build a lot of connections with their team members, and there's a lot that can happen to make a good manager and to make management enjoyable. But from the outside looking in, even though I work really, really close with managers, it's overrated simply because of the fact that there's so much change that you cannot control. If budgets are cut, but they want this still particular function to work, they're not going to want to hear, well, I've lost 2 team members. I lost 3 team members because you fired, we had to get rid of them. They don't want to hear, all these real excuses. They just want the product done, and you have to find a way to do it. That could be unfair. I've seen situations where one manager this one person it was like they weren't necessarily a co-manager, but they were like underneath the manager. And this one manager wanted something done a certain way and done by a certain time. This person was very adamant. Like there was no that you can look at all the notes, you can look at all the team conversations with the AI co-pilot, you can look at all that. They were very against doing a lot of things this particular manager wanted to do. Ultimately, that manager got fired. So this new person got put up there. Hey, you have to now do this project, but you have to do it that way because it already started that way. And if you don't, and then eventually he got fired. So it's just like that. Though that is why management is just so tricky to me. I could see where it's completely fulfilling. Like I still want to do it, as crazy as it may sound, but it's definitely overrated in terms of people just think that just leads to the big money and that's how you become CFO and that's how you become all these things. Nah, I mean, it is close. It's definitely the pathway, but it's just not as easy as people make it seem. Some great managers make it look incredibly easy, but there's just so much a manager has to go through that a lot of it's unfair, but a lot of it is just the job, and that's just the field we're in. So those are the two doom and gloom. Like I said, this is more of a fun video, even though management is not very fun when it comes to why it could be overrated. But now we're going to talk about the underrated, because I think there are a lot of positions that are underrated. And the one I want to start off with is sysadmin. Sysadmin, it doesn't necessarily have to be directly tied to a particular field in tech. It doesn't have to be tied to completely to AI or anything like that. But that's the beauty of it, is that if you're willing, this is where I've made a video before I recorded this one about certifications, and I don't know what video is going to come out when, but either way, this is the beauty of like having a very generic job but then getting that certification. So if I have worked in cloud computing for a while, but I've been an admin for cloud infrastructures, I can go get a AI certification if I want to, let's say build with the future. I can get an AI certification to switch to be a sysadmin for AI, because now I have years of experience of being a sysadmin in general. So a lot of the tasks are going to be the same if I were to be an AI, an AI sysadmin. But now that I got these certifications, I've shown that I understand, the AI terminology and how AI works and all this and that. So it's not going to be a hard change for me to accept. The only difference is just working in that particular field. Maybe the day-to-day might be slightly different, but I've shown I have the knowledge and I've shown I have the experience of the basic role. So that's where like a certification comes in. It allows you to switch. But that's what's cool about sysadmin, is that sysadmin in one field is the same everywhere else. It's just, new technologies and softwares you may have to learn, but you can get a quick certification for that. And then that allows you to, that opens up a whole nother door for you to look. Another position I feel as though is very, very underrated, and that is technical writing. This is the thing. In my experience, I don't think I've ever been at a company or worked with a team that technical writing was its own role. Every time I've seen it, I've done it myself. It's just been encapsulated in my role. So I just had to do it, had to learn how to do it. The beauty of it is, though, it's its own job. It can be its own job. Some companies hire their own technical writers, whether that's in-house or they do that as a contractor. But what really, really, really makes this very underrated, and this skill set in general, is that it can become its own thing. If you want to create your own business technical writing and make some real good money, you could do that with that skill. You don't necessarily have to rely on working at a certain company to become a technical writer and to just kind of hold that position. It allows you to possibly do your own thing if you're that kind of person. If you're not, you still know a lot. You're writing all this stuff down. You're understanding the concepts. It allows you, and this is where you can probably get certification. You may need a slight background in tech. I don't think you can necessarily go from like English major to technical writer, because that's possible. But then like go from technical writer to developer, I don't think that's quite how it works. If you were to maybe have a computer science background of some kind, then technical writer, then yeah, it would allow you to open up those doors and do that. But if you were to be an English man to go to the technical writer, you could become sysadmin, or you could become, a manager. Like there's a lot you could still do with that. So even in-house, it works out being a technical writer, but I really like it for the potential outside of work where you can possibly create your own business. And that just opens up the door for a lot of things, of course. The last underrated role I want to talk about, and this is one I'm very, really interested in, and that is consulting. I think the idea of consulting is fascinating. That also can become its own business, but also you're not necessarily in the weeds. You're being paid for your knowledge. And as someone that loves to learn, like, I think that's really cool. I definitely like to get my hands dirty a little bit too and do a lot of the work, but I understand like a lot of the money, a lot of the fulfilling work comes from the knowledge. I know some people definitely still like coding all day, every day. Nothing wrong with that. I've only been able to experience that for like a year and a half in my career. Never really got to do it again, but I definitely wish I was more on the technical side. But being on this side, I think being consulting is like just a fantastic position because you're able to use your knowledge, you're able to use your experience, whether you're someone that's been in the weeds or not, and you're paid for that. And it's not like you have to usually give that much work. A lot of your work can be done in a few hours and you're paid handsomely for it. So that's why being in consulting, it doesn't sound like it's something that, people cheer and be excited about coming out of college, especially. But at the end game, thinking about, kind of where I am and thinking about a lot of other people as well, consulting could be huge. And once again, I'm all for something that can become its own business at the end of the day. And consulting very much can be that. So that's why I think it's an underrated position. That does it for this video. Like I said, this is more so on the playful side as far as overrated. I personally don't think anything is necessarily overrated. I can understand why it may not be, as it seems. I can understand why it just may not be as exciting as you would want it to be. But at the end of the day, we're all happy to have a job. The market can be crazy at times. So anytime you're going to have a job, especially in tech, is a good time. I mean, there's layoffs and stuff. So it's not to diminish any role or position. At the way I feel about it, anything can be overrated and underrated. This is just like a more playful video. At the end of the day, I think we're all just happy to be able to be in this field, work with amazing people, and have a job at the end of the day. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. I would love to hear them for people who are in different fields and whatnot. It will be really exciting to hear your point of view, and I'll see you guys next week.